So I just recently went and saw Godzilla Minus One, and in my own opinion, this might have to be one of the best Godzilla movies, probably in the top 3 spot in my own opinion. I mean, it's a kind of mixture between 1954 and Godzilla vs. Destroyer on which one's my favorite. But this one definitely takes like Shin Godzilla. This movie takes place during post-World War II Japan, where a giant monster is awoken by the atomic bomb. It's up to the citizens in Japan to try and step up and destroy Godzilla once and for all. That's pretty much the non-spoiler for the Godzilla Minus One. There will be spoilers in this video, but I'll eventually talk about the spoilers, so don't worry, you're not going to get spoiled in this section right here. So I'm just going to give away my thoughts on Godzilla Minus One. Go see the movie if you don't have the chance to. So Godzilla Minus One is the second live-action Godzilla movie in the Reiwa era, with the first one being Shin Godzilla that was released in 2016, and is more of a dramatic war movie rather than just a goofy giant monster fun movie. If you're expecting this movie to be like just a, popcorn movie, well, it kind of is, but unfortunately it's not really too much. This is more of a dramatic, like, Oscar-worthy movie. Like, this is not the MonsterVerse. You're not going to expect, giant monsters to come in and try and fight Godzilla, so, yeah. But one thing I really liked about this movie was the human characters. The human characters were probably some of the best human characters in all of the Godzilla movies, in my own opinion. This is really rare. No human characters, aren't really that great in some Godzilla movies because they're a bit boring and most of us want to see the monsters. But in this movie, you actually want to see the humans, and you don't really, when Godzilla's on screen, you want our main characters to try and survive it. And in my opinion, this movie definitely is a really dramatic Godzilla movie. The characters in this movie, they're super duper dramatic, and it takes place in a dramatic setting as well. That's probably why as well. It takes place during post-World War II Japan. So this is supposed to be a really sad, dramatic movie. This isn't supposed to be a fun movie. And I think the humans are probably the best part about this movie. But I know most of the audience are thinking, what about Godzilla? Well, I gotta say, Godzilla was so awesome in this movie. Oh my god, this has to be one of the best Godzillas. Godzilla in this movie, he is a beast. He is literally, a villain Godzilla. He's literally destroying buildings and not giving a damn and killing lots of innocent people. In my opinion, this has to be the most evil Godzilla out of all of them. Now, I still like the hero Godzilla, but in my opinion, I absolutely love Godzilla when he's a villain. Some of the best Godzilla movies are the ones where he's mostly a villain, in my opinion. That's how the way I see Godzilla, as him just being this evil force of nature. Or maybe an anti-hero as well. But that's literally the Godzilla in this movie. Also, I really love the effects to Godzilla in this movie. The effects look so amazing. Which, I know in some shots, most people criticize that some shots, are pretty terrible. But in my opinion, I didn't really see that too much. I think the effects to Godzilla were amazing in this movie. Takashi Yamazaki, who directs it, also does the effects to it. So that's really awesome. Also, this movie, I forgot to mention, this movie was on a $15 million budget. Now, most Hollywood movies usually cost $300 to $200 million. But this movie was literally a $15 million budget. What was all that money spent on? Did they pay the actors, cents? Did they, did they pay, the special effects to the movie or the actors cents? Gee, that $15 million, that's not a lot for, a huge blockbuster movie. So, that's literally amazing. That blows my mind. Another thing that I really liked about this movie was the score. Of course, they used the classic Akira Ifukube Godzilla music, and it was amazing in this movie. Without that score, I think this movie would have been a bit watered down. So it was awesome to see the classic Godzilla theme on the big screen. Also, someone was humming the theme when I was in the theater, so that was actually, you can tell that guy was a Godzilla fan. But also, there was new music to the movie, and I actually really loved the music to it. The music was scored by Naoki Sato, which I think that's his name, yeah. So I think Minus One actually has a really good music and score. Like all Godzilla movies. I think the score is amazing. It's one of the top 10 best Godzilla music in my own opinion. Also, I noticed in Godzilla Minus One, there was a lot of references to other movies, such as some Spielberg movies and some others that I think most people will have noticed while watching the movie. So, it really reminds me of some of those old Godzilla movies they used to reference bigger budget Hollywood movies back in the day. So that was really awesome seeing that back in this movie. Anyway, I'm trying to think of some other things I need to say, but that's pretty much it. I'm also trying to think of some negatives to the movie to just pick point, but I don't have anything. But I do have this one thing, and that's Godzilla's motivation to destroying the city. Now, it could have been just from the atomic bomb or just Godzilla doing what he does, but it just wasn't addressed too much of what he really wanted in the movie. But anyway, no complaints. I think Godzilla Minus One is a perfect movie in my opinion. But now we're going to get on to spoilers. If you haven't seen Godzilla Minus One yet, it's best to skip to this bit. Here's the time frame on the screen to quickly skip, because today I'm going to be spoiling the entire plot of the movie. So I'm starting the spoilers now. You've been warned. The film opens up on the island Otto Island. We follow Shikima, who is a kamikaze pilot, who arrives on Otto Island to fix his plane. However, he's obviously telling a lie as he's just trying to get away from doing his mission. So in order to get away, Shikishima lands on Otto Island, which most Godzilla fans probably know what this island is. If you don't know, Otto Island is the island that we see in the first Godzilla movie, where all the characters go to. This is also the iconic scene where we first see Godzilla for the first time in the entire franchise. However, one night, Shikishima and the rest of the people that were on Otto Island hear a roar, as well as a huge shock, as they see. And yes, this is the start of Godzilla's first form, and I kind of got spoiled by this by the Bandai movie Monster Series figure, which I have an image on screen here. But when I first had a look at this design with the Bandai figure, I found it to be hilariously stupid, and I kind of found, my expectations a bit low for this movie after looking at this figure. However, once I watched the movie and I saw this Godzillasaurus in action, I actually found that scene to be very terrifying and awesome. We see this Godzillasaurus pretty much destroying stuff on Otto Island and literally eating people and throwing them. Like, that scene was cool. I'd never seen Godzilla eat people. Shikishima hops into his kamikaze plane and tries to fire at the Godzillasaurus. However, he kind of suffers from PTSD and doesn't do it. And so pretty much he is kind of responsible for everyone's deaths, and later on in the morning he sees everyone else dead. The only ones also alive is Tachibana, who's the mechanic. We then go back to Tokyo, and this time Tokyo is bombed out from the war. Shikima returns and finds out that his family is dead. However, he then meets Noriko as well as Akiko, who's a young infant orphan whose parents got killed in the bombings. Also, Noriko's family was killed. However, they form a family and they begin living together with their own house. Then we get a recreation of Operation Crossroads, which was the second nuclear test at the time. But we get a shot here at Godzilla's eye and roaring in pain as he literally gets blasted by this bomb. And so, this is when we see Godzilla become what he would be throughout the movie. Shikishima gets a job at sweeping up mines from the sea that were left out during the war. He joins a couple of men as well as a rusty old boat as well. But they venture out and then they eventually see a destroyed boat that was left by Godzilla. However, they then see Godzilla and his mutated form. We finally see Godzilla's mutated form for the first time. And this time it's all Jaws style. Godzilla's literally chasing the humans while we're on the boat. And so they pretty much use the mind bombs to try and shoot Godzilla. And this kind of reminds me of Jaws. Of how, Chief Brody puts the barrel in the shark's mouth and tries to shoot it. However, there was no smile-ish of a line to it. But anyway, that was a really cool reference in this movie, if it was a reference at all. But anyway, they shoot the mines, Godzilla blows up, and it seems like Godzilla's dead. However, he regenerates, and so Godzilla swims back. However, a Japanese ship from the war comes in to try and save the day and try and shoot down Godzilla. However, Godzilla destroys the ship with its atomic breath, destroying everyone and killing everyone on board. And so, we get one shot of Godzilla roaring into the sky, which is one that we saw in the trailers. And so, Godzilla heads back to the sea. However, Godzilla first arrives at Ginza, where Noriko is working in the Ginza district. She's then on the train, and this is when we get Godzilla's first appearance and onto Ginza. And in my opinion, this is probably the best scene in the entire movie. However, it's the only scene where we get to see Godzilla destroy things in the entire movie. Well, as in, it's the only scene where we get to see Godzilla destroy a city in the whole movie. But still though, the scene is amazing. Pretty much Godzilla bites down onto the train where Noriko's on, and he pretty much almost kills her in the process. However, Noriko drops into the ocean, and so she makes it out alive. So Godzilla goes around destroying buildings, and it's really awesome to see. And also, we get to see Godzilla's atomic breath. And in my opinion, I love the atomic breath in here. This is the most powerful atomic breath out of any Godzilla. I like Shin Godzilla's atomic breath, but this is probably the best one. So pretty much the atomic breath is where Godzilla literally bursts out his spines, or his dorsal fins, and then they lights up with blue, and then they charge back in him, and Godzilla literally vomits out all his atomic breath energy, and then destroys one of the buildings, and then an atomic bomb literally sets off. It's destroying every building and killing everyone in sight. Noriko unfortunately gets swept away by the energy, and so we're made to believe like she's dead. Shinichi is upset and thinks that Noriko is dead. Godzilla finishes his attack and begins heading off to the sea. Then, Shinichi tells to Otoko that Noriko is dead, which leads to one of the saddest parts of the movie where Otoko cries. Despite her being around like 3 to 5 years old, it's still perfect acting, and in my opinion, one of the saddest moments in the franchise. However, Kenji decides to set out a plan to try and just kill Godzilla once and for all, because the Japanese government and the US aren't doing anything about it, and are leaving the citizens of Japan to deal with it themselves. Kenji's plan to destroy Godzilla is by sinking him into the water, sinking him deep into the ocean, and then he uses these water-like balloons to pull Godzilla up into the surface of the ocean. Kenji uses Shikishima to try and go hop into a plane, a kamikaze plane, to try and distract Godzilla to get him into the ocean. And so, Shikishima gets the help of Tachibana, which we saw him in the beginning of the movie, to help him with his plane. The citizens of Japan team up to try and end the war for good by trying to stop Godzilla. And this is where we get to see the final fight scene with Godzilla. In my opinion, it's one of the best finales. Well, it's not really the best, but I think it's one of the best finales in like a Godzilla movie. That's besides a giant monster battle like ending. And the way that the humans stop Godzilla, it's alright, but I think how the way it's executed in the movie, it's very entertaining and very interesting. So Godzilla's pulled pretty much under the ocean, and then with the balloons, they try to surface him up to the ocean. However, Godzilla bites down onto the balloon, setting himself free, and so he rises up to the sea. Godzilla gets ready for his atomic breath energy. However, he is then stopped by Shikishima in his kamikaze plane flying towards Godzilla. And so, he gets ready, and it looks like a suicide scene where he's trying to go into Godzilla, destroying the plane into Godzilla's mouth and blowing up Godzilla for good. Godzilla then goes into pieces and sinks to the bottom of the ocean. We meant to think that Shikishima is dead, however Shikishima comes back. This time he used the ejection button, which we realize is actually an ejection button to the kamikaze plane, and so he ejects and he survives the ordeal with Godzilla. Shikishima goes back and realizes that Noriko is actually still alive. However, some theorize that she got a radioactive poison from Godzilla's attack, so she's clearly not safe. And that's pretty much the ending of the film. And so that was Godzilla Minus One, and in my opinion, this is one of the best Godzilla movies. I don't know if it'll reach the top 3, but I think it might eventually. But I'm glad that this movie is getting critical praise and is doing very well in the box office on a $15 million budget. And it looks like this movie might even get like an Academy Award or something like that. So that's going to be very interesting, and that's going to be very awesome, because that means that we'll probably get more Godzilla movies from Toho in the near future. So it's best to support this movie while you can. I know it's limited run in theaters now, and I think it might be leaving eventually soon in the theaters, so it's best to leave now and go watch the movie. Go watch this movie. It's actually worth seeing in the cinemas, especially worth seeing in IMAX. Do I think it's better than the 1954 movie? Probably not. I actually prefer the 1954 movie, but is it better than Shin Godzilla? I actually do think so. I kind of didn't really like Shin Godzilla because I felt that the film was a bit boring for all the human stuff. But anyway, I haven't watched Shin Godzilla in a little while, so I maybe need to go back to watching that and then watching this. But anyway, I definitely think this is better than Shin Godzilla, but I don't think it'll be top the 1954 movie though. However, I do think this movie is definitely the #1 best movie of the year in my own opinion, and I think it's up there on the top 3 with Across the Spider-Verse and Oppenheimer. Obviously, Godzilla Minus One, in my opinion, hands down, gets a 10 out of 10. I know it's kind of, I know lots of people are saying it's a 10 out of 10, but seriously, it actually is a 10 out of 10. Like, this is a serious movie, and, it's worth going to in the theater to go see. So, definitely recommend checking this out in theaters. Go see it right now. But anyway, that will be it for this review. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next adventure.